An emergency, a second stimulus package might be approved by the White House and the Fed by mid-July. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus package and stimulus update for today. Our first of 3 stimulus package updates, and later today, please stay with us with a bombshell world exclusive you will only hear on LALATE about EIDL, and a massive call for congressional hearing as 3 individuals are paid over $75,000 to expedite EIDL loan processing. But let's get right to this second stimulus package update. Really shocking news. As you know, this channel has been detailing the timeline for a second stimulus check approval. There's first the issue of how much, but there's also the issue of when. And this channel has been detailing that members of Congress are, of course, on vacation again. God only knows why. And returning in late July, and that a second stimulus package would be approved by around August 8th. Why? That is the final day that members of Congress are in session, and then they go on another holiday. But a new report released minutes ago on CNBC now has economic analysts suggesting that they think that a second stimulus package in a form of an emergency order might be issued by the White House and the Fed in mid-July before members of Congress are even back in session. What is this shocking news? Well, as you know, this channel has been detailing over the last couple of days that stimulus packages can come from states, they can come from Congress, and they can come from the Federal Reserve, and that the Federal Reserve has trillions of dollars allocated for COVID-19 stimulus that has not been used. Well, a new report today suggests that next week we could hear details about an emergency order. Where is this coming from? Federal Chairman Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will both testify at the House Financial Services Committee on Tuesday to talk about a second stimulus package. And this is what one analyst named Cummings said in a CNBC interview minutes ago. There is so much of it, it's still fluid. There's a bunch of fiscal items that are rolling off. There's talk about a fiscal stimulus package like the one they do with the $1,200 check. But when asked about it further, Cummings and other analysts told CNBC that there are big timelines that are running in early July and mid-July that warrants a second stimulus package right away. What are they? Well, first of all, state budgets start a new year on July 1st, and there's concern that if the states do not have the stimulus packages of a second stimulus program in their hands from the Federal Reserve or from Mnuchin, that states will immediately start cutting jobs and may not make payroll. Next, there is indication that the $600 from the federal government, that $600 per week, which you know runs out at late July, and they'll be subject of our third stimulus check video, that might need to be done right away. And basically what is talked about in this report from CNBC is that strategists are very concerned that enhanced unemployment benefits, which we know what that is, that's FPUC. That's the $600 from the federal government that it was given to UI and PUA people from March to July, runs out in late July. And you'll see in my third stimulus video today, it's actually a little bit earlier. It's really not good news. And that with that, there is suggestions that these stimulus packages may have to be approved by the Treasury and Mnuchin before Congress is even back in session. Now, why is this really good news? This channel has been detailing this unusual twist about the second stimulus package for days. We've been saying first, the Federal Reserve was asked about this before another House or Senate committee just days ago, whether the Federal Reserve has approval and authority to issue stimulus packages without congressional vote. Jerome Powell said absolutely. He says the charter establishments of the Federal Reserve and the Federal Bank allows the Federal Reserve to issue stimulus packages without congressional oversight, without congressional approval, without White House approval. But Mnuchin as well is deeply concerned about unemployment numbers and is deeply concerned about what is tolling in the next couple days. What is at issue is coming up next week. There are several big tests, and let me go over the timeline of what's coming next week as to a second stimulus package. First, the big test will be the June jobs reports. How many jobs were created recently? And this is the June jobs reports. It will be issued on Thursday instead of Friday because of the holiday. Some analysts are expecting the numbers to be far more severe than originally thought. Next, there is big questions about where is the recovery. Now, as I watch what's happening, I think it's more like a rolling W, says Liz Ann Saunders, chief investment strategist at Charles Schwab. This channel has detail, basically, where is this economy at the moment? Is it a V, or is it a W, or is it actually quite worse? All indications suggest it's absolutely not a V, but is it more like a W? And so Liz Ann Saunders clearly said we're looking at rolling W's, which is which is actually worse than a W. It basically says go up, go back down, go back and go back down. So there you go. When we're talking about second stimulus packages next week, when Powell and Mnuchin testified before the House Financial Services Committee, they're going to be specifically point blank asked, do we need a second stimulus package? What can you do to get a second stimulus package? And can you do it right now? There is talk that the $600 per week from the federal government, that FPUC, could actually just get extended right away when Congress is back in session, and just not really, or by executive order or by federal intervening. As you recall, that $600 from the federal government is a federal supplement. It's underwritten by act of the Treasury and the Fed working hand in hand. So, and they apparently really want it. Quote, the magnitude here and whether it's 3 or 7 million is kind of a handicap to begin with. Economists say that there's no clarity on how you define the unemployment in the COVID environment. If there's 30 million people receiving insurance unemployment, it could go above 20%, the unemployment number. So, this channel has been detailing all these stimulus packages, whether it's $600 per week for FPUC, for unemployment of PUA people, whether it's that $1,200 check, that single $1,200 check, which no one thinks is ever going to float because this is not enough money for the average U.S. citizen. Several checks, six or more $2,000 checks until the pandemic settles down or unemployment rates improved. That is all different elements that are on top of what's before members of Congress coming from different directions. As this channel has detailed in the last few days, it is blinded to just say that there is only one stimulus package currently on the table. It's absolutely categorically untrue. The HEROES Act, which came from the House to the Senate, is not the only package. Yesterday, this channel detailed a new stimulus package, which started in the Senate. Bills can start in the Senate. And it came from Marco Rubio calling for retroactive second stimulus checks. There are proposals that are in the Senate that are starting. They're going back to the House. There are proposals that are in the House that are separate and apart from the HEROES Act. As you recall, there was a call for, and there still is a movement for, 6 $2,000 checks, or as the pandemic settles down, or as unemployment rates improve. And that has still not gone away, nor is the Portman plan, $450 approximately per week for people who go back to work on top of their average workly salary, because he thinks you're not going to get enough money in the current environment. The Bradley plan, which pays you $600 twice when you go back to work. The extension of FPUC, that's $600 from the federal government. The extension of unemployment benefits weeks. The extension of PUA benefits weeks. There's a lot out there. The offering of hazard pay, $13 per hour on top of your normal hourly rate if you are a essential worker. And of course, the discussion is what are essential workers, the forgiveness of student debt, the extension of student debt, whether it's principal and interest. So there's a lot of stimulus packages out there. But here's what I want you to be aware of, and this is always the most critical thing, because when we're talking about stimulus packages, we're talking about when and where. And a lot of people always say to me, hey, I'll see it when I see it. Well, here's what you need to be on the lookout for. Monday at 10 a.m., home sales numbers are released. 3 p.m., Fed President out of New York, John Williams, speaks. Tuesday, we have the Case-Shiller home prices numbers. I mean, these are all big things that Mnuchin, Kudlow, all the White House team are going to be looking at, and Jerome Powell, of course, to determine how big a second stimulus package needs to be given. The Chicago PMI is also on Tuesday. Consumer confidence is on Tuesday. And then finally, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. Jerome Powell, Mnuchin, House Financial Services Committee of the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, about pandemic response, about a second stimulus check. I mean, this channel doesn't wait to tell you the news after fact. We tell it to you ahead of time what you should expect. Wednesday, ADP unemployment numbers, manufacturing PI, construction spending. Thursday, initial jobless claims, big number. I mean, that is the big number. That is the June unemployment number. That is what's going to really move Mnuchin and Powell on giving you a second stimulus check. They said it. They said that the reasons and the grounds for issuing the magnitude and the amount and the severity of a second stimulus check depends upon unemployment numbers, consumer confidence, and liquidity. We don't currently have a problem with liquidity, so that's the great news. But consumer confidence and unemployment are really on the ball. Unemployment report Thursday, international trade, factory orders, and of course next Friday is a holiday. Let's get to some of your 127 comments yesterday about the stimulus package. This channel detailed that Marco Rubio wants to give retroactive benefits, which this channel is actually called for, of stimulus checks for people who were left out of the first stimulus check. Now that is in addition to a second stimulus package. This channel is called for retroactive checks for people who actually got their first stimulus check as well. The Big D Zone, American Congress is way overpaid. Scott, Marco Rubio cannot believe it. Kimberly, we need monthly checks retroactive from March and ongoing payments until this pandemic is over. Very well said, Kimberly. Gerald, I'll wait to see. Rel, any word on the essential workers stimulus? Yes, that's basically what I talked about before. The HEROES Act, we won't see movement on that until July. $13 on top of what they get. Fun times is get rid of Mitch. Anaja, I said, I hope so. I love this. Quinton, we just need $2,000 a month for every citizen. Very well said. I absolutely 100% agree with you. Absolute long play. Retroactive stimulus check would be great. Sherry, we need you in the White House. But you would never see this backdrop again. Rachel Vega, I don't believe it went in my bank account. Well, you know, we don't report news after the fact. We report it ahead of time. Mildred, I'm a senior living abroad. I'm entitled to a second stimulus. I'm retired depending on my $625 Social Security. If I continue living in the U.S., I won't be able to survive. I'm 66. Please respond. Yes, if you're a U.S. citizen, it doesn't matter where you are, you will get that stimulus check. Now, make sure you have a bank account in the United States. Make sure you have a place to receive the stimulus check in the United States. I don't know about them sending stimulus checks overseas to U.S. citizens. I don't know anything about that. Jasmine, no one likes masks. Well, you gotta wear them. Robin, I love your channel. Watch you regularly. I told my friend that Mark Cuban has a plan which sounds like the answer to a lot of problems. I'd love to hear more about it. Oh, here it is. $1,000 every 2 weeks on a debit card. Brian, I love how you roll through the questions, comments from previous videos. It's seriously a big help to know that you're actually listening to us address our concerns. Yes, I mean, the way we all know what each other is thinking is reading through the comments. I read through the bad, I read through the good. And the collective comment has been, hey, multiple checks, retroactive checks, and one single $1,200 check is a simple joke. Alex, I'm taking them way too long to get to this together. Very well said. And that's also collective agreement of this channel, of viewers of this channel. These insane two vacations is just ridiculous. You're on vacation during a pandemic now. You come back, you work for a few weeks, you go on another vacation. What's going on, members of Congress? Pam Perman. What about college students that live at home? College, it's same thing that is proposed in the HEROES Act for college student debts. Same thing. Leanne, happy anniversary, LA. You're so right. I feel like it's a virtual family anniversary. It's been a long journey. I'm sticking with you so many reasons: integrity, compassion, knowledge, and humor. Well, thank you. And coming up this weekend, we're going to have our 2-month anniversary special and a cast of new characters. So I hope you join us for that one. Samantha, they're giving us a runaround with these stimulus checks. They're delaying. I agree. Heartfelt. I love the intro. You're so talented. Well, thank you, Heartfelt. Kevin Lee, gotta love the bombshells. Retroactive payments will be the day. Yes. Shannon, they had retroactive payments in the HEROES Act for people who didn't get money the first time. Very well said, but I just don't think that's enough, and I don't think viewers of this channel think that's enough. There has to be retroactive payments for people who did get stimulus checks for every U.S. citizen. How dare them go on 2 holidays and say, hey, we'll give you a stimulus check in August, and we're not going to pay you stimulus checks for April, May, June, July. I think it's ridiculous. And it's going to be ridiculous when we look at the June jobs report coming out this Thursday. Quentin, that will be an example for my wife on furlough. Lisa Green, good evening. We need to start hearing this. I pray for real. The Big D Zone, my business is travel agent. Yesterday we detailed that a lot of changes with airlines. Minutes ago, American Airlines said that they are going to start selling the middle seat on airlines July 1st. I mean, I just think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. They're really putting people's lives after their net profit. They can make money without selling that middle seat. They would be at 85% capacity if not selling the middle seat. And they want to start selling the middle seat July 1st because, we got to survive economically. How about people living? Can you imagine going internationally with 3 people right 10 inches away from you? Nessa Camacho, happy anniversary. Thank you. Jane, I just want to thank you for your videos. Well, thank you. Sean, this stimulus, I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it does. Rowan, thank you for getting me caught up with this information. Arlene, will child support be taken again in the HEROES Act? I don't know. That's a really great question. Vanna, we need to give $6,000 per person instead of that $1,200 for this final bill. I don't think it's going to be a final bill. I detailed that earlier this week. I think that there's going to be a flip. I think Mitch is going to be gone, and I don't think that Mitch's story about final stimulus check is ever going to work. The pandemic is not over. And Mitch said it when the Americas was reopening minutes ago. Florida and Texas shut down all bars. It's starting. It's really starting. Parts of Australia have gone back on the lockdown. To think that this nation is going to remain completely open till January is just naive, Mitch. Twin, we need to get $2,000 a month for life. Eileen Starr, what do you do with FPUC applicants requiring for your state ID? I'll do that in the FPUC video. Robert, ideal question. Join me for that scandal later today. Thank you for the updates, Barb. Well, thank you, Barb. Happy 2-month anniversary, Lisa. Thank you. Annette, thank you for the info, dear. Thank you, Annette. Jeff is not happy believing anything from Marco Rubio. I can feel your pain. I can feel your pain. Samantha, the White House is pushing for a stimulus check. It's the usual thieves of Congress rejoicing on misery, which are not signing. I like that. I mean, the White House really is trying to get this stimulus check to you. Mnuchin has said everything so far correct, with the exception of EIDL and PPP. He has said everything right so far about stimulus checks. He has not digressed from the focus of getting lots of money infused into this economy to people who need assistance, all people, and additional assistance to people who are unemployed. So far Mnuchin's doing a good job on this subject matter. Gustavo, I know people that the husband in Social Security and the wife doesn't get IATN. This will help. The Rubio plan will help. Honorio Soto says Texas is a hot spot for COVID. I know it is. Our country needs to emulate Canada, says another person. Paul Ryan likes the Rubio plan. It should be passed for non-citizen says another person. Andy F. Has, boy, a very long question and a comment. It's basically talking about this debate about stimulus checks for the first one, non-citizen citizens. I'll leave that at that. Coming up later today, 2 other stimulus package updates and really shocking news about will FPUC, that $600 from the federal government, run out earlier than initially thought. Boy, you better stay with us for that 3rd stimulus check video. But please, please do not miss our EIDL scandal video. It is a world exclusive you will only hear on LALATE. As always, stay with LA for more.